In this video, I'm going to talk about why this Greek grammar may actually be my favorite Greek grammar. Hi, I'm Darryl Burling from Master New Testament Greek, and I help everyday people learn to read the New Testament in the original language so that they can know the word better and know the Lord better. If you're interested in joining me in this, hit the subscribe button and the notify bell. That way, when new videos come out, well, you'll be the first to know about it. So before I get into the video today, I do have just one thing I want to talk about. Now, you may remember from the video I did a couple of weeks ago about the library, how that I have a pretty decent sized Logos library. I've been using Logos for a long time, and I have a lot of books there. I use it every day. So I'm thrilled to announce that Logos has kindly agreed to sponsor a number of videos on this YouTube channel. And that means that in this video, I'm going to actually share with you not only what you see in the print version of this grammar, but also how I use this grammar inside Logos Bible software as well. So every month I review a Greek grammar, a beginning Greek grammar specifically, and I've actually started a little web page on the Master New Testament Greek website, and you can actually see these grammars listed in order of my current preference. Now, I haven't reviewed every grammar yet. I've only just started. This is the third grammar in this series that I'm reviewing, but you'll be able to go there. So you just go to masterntgreek.com/grammars and you can get my guide to what I think are the best grammars, along with some of the pros and cons and quick links to all the videos that I've done. So let's talk about Rodney Decker's Reading Koine Greek. Now, as you can see, this is one of the larger Koine Greek, beginning Greek grammars that you can get today. You compare this to, say, Summers, which is Ray Summers' revised edition, which I reviewed a couple of months ago. You can see this is significantly smaller. And of course, if you go to something tiny like the Concise Exegetical Grammar by Greenlee, it's even smaller still. So this is not an insignificant grammar in terms of size, and it has actually taken a little bit of criticism for that. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I'm going to explain why in just a moment. Another thing about this that's really significant to know is that it includes a workbook. You don't have to go and spend extra money to get the workbook that comes with this. It's all built in. In fact, there's a variety of different kinds of exercises that are built into this. And this is also intended not only for a beginning Greek grammar, but also to be used even as you go into intermediate Greek as well. So when Dr. Decker published this, he actually makes a note knowing that students, when they finish beginning Greek, they will often go back to the beginning Greek grammar and use that grammar as a reference work as well. And so he's designed this with that in mind, which is one of the reasons it's a little longer. Now, the other thing that's distinct about this is that the stated goal of this grammar is different to the stated goal of a lot of other grammars. The philosophy he takes as he goes through this is not so much to help you do exegesis, it's not so much to help you translate the text, it's not so much so that you can use tools, like we saw last month with Danny Zacharias' grammar. The primary goal of this grammar is so that you can read Koine Greek. Not read the New Testament in Greek, that's included, but Koine Greek, which includes the Septuagint, the Apostolic Fathers, even Josephus. So the goal he's trying to achieve here is larger in some ways than what you get with other grammars. But really, this is the goal that I want to encourage you to have as students of Greek, so that you're able to read the New Testament fluently. And that's what this grammar is designed to do. So I love the philosophy behind this. Now, as a result of that, you're going to learn more vocabulary as you read through this grammar than you would if you were going through another beginning Greek grammar, such as Mount's or Danny Zacharias' one, or any of the others. In most grammars, you learn about 330 words. In this grammar, you are going to learn 465 words. In those grammars where you learn 330 or so words, they're going to be the words that occur 50 times or more in the Greek New Testament. In this, in addition to learning the words that occur 50 times or more, you're also going to learn some that occur less than 50 times, and you're going to learn all of the words in the Septuagint that occur 100 times or more. So you're getting a lot more vocabulary, which is going to give you a great deal more ability to read as well. Now, in case you think that sounds like a lot of work, it's only 15 words per chapter, which is actually still, in my opinion, kind of low. It also means that when you come to doing the exercises in this grammar, you're not only going to be doing exercises from the New Testament, and you're certainly not going to be doing exercises that are made up. he's drawing a lot from the Septuagint, from the Apostolic Fathers, and even from other resources from time to time as well. So you're getting a real world exposure to how Koine Greek was written by people who did this every day, which is a really, I think this is one of the great strengths of this grammar. And so I really like the stated goal he has. And let me ask you this, do you like this goal, this approach, this outcome that he's trying to aim for? And if you do, hit the thumbs up button. And that also helps me to know that this is a helpful video. Not only that, if you don't like this approach, in a beginning Greek grammar, then let me know in the comment section below what approach you would prefer. Do you prefer one that teaches exegetical Greek? Do you prefer one that teaches tools? What are you aiming for when you learn biblical Greek or wanting to teach biblical Greek? I like this. I think that's great. If you like it, hit the thumbs up button. In terms of the approach of this, because it's a little larger, one of the things you see inside this grammar is he does come back to topics over and over again. For instance, early in the book, in about chapter 6, I think it is, you're starting on verbs. And in that chapter on verbs, you learn the present active indicative and the present active infinitive. Then later on, though, he deliberately says you're going to come back to some of these concepts later on. A couple of chapters later, you're doing aorist verbs, and he's discussing again a little bit more about verbs. Again, it's just helping you to see how verbs are working, and because you're coming back to it over and over again, you're not hit with it like a waterfall where you kind of go off the edge and then boom, you're into this big world of verbs or participles or whatever it is. For most of these concepts, you're introduced to them fairly early, and then later on, he comes back and he fine-tunes your information, gives you a bit more, and you see things between those two chapters. You're starting to see things in the wild, which means that you're taking that inductive approach and you're learning from that even as you use the textbook and go through the exercises. Another thing I really like about this is the way he deals with verbs. Now, verbs are one of those areas where there's a little bit of discussion today in the scholarly world. And there tends to be those who are kind of more linguistically minded who will hold to verbal aspect, and then there's those who are more pedagogically minded who will hold to time in the indicative mood. Now, Rodney Decker actually did his dissertation, his PhD dissertation, on verbal aspect in the Gospel of Mark, and that comes out strongly in this grammar. So when it comes to verbs, Decker is going to teach you that there is no time in the verb forms themselves. It's part of the context. You get time out of the context rather than the verb form, and the verb form is focused on verbal aspect. Now, most modern grammars will agree that the main idea is aspect, but they will still hold that there is time in the verb. And I think this actually makes learning verbs just a little bit more confusing. So in this, you've got verbal aspect is the main idea, and time is a result of the context. The pragmatics rather than the semantics. So he's going to teach in here that there are three aspects, imperfective, perfective, and stative. He's also going to mention things like remoteness when it comes to the imperfect tense form, which I think is really helpful, and I'd love to see even just a little more discussion in this on that idea of remoteness and proximity. But nonetheless, I'm really excited about the way he deals with verbal aspect in this. I think it's the right approach. Not only that, but he also has a great discussion on the middle voice. In fact, he explains very clearly that there are two kinds of verb forms. There are situation-focused verbs, which are the verbs that end in omicron or me, when you got the athematic verbs. And then he's going to talk about there being subject-focused verbs, which are the middle-only forms, which is like erkomai and things like that. And so he distinguishes between those, I think, in a really helpful way. So again, there's no deponency here. It's embracing the latest scholarship when it comes to the middle voice. And again, I really appreciate that. So the way this grammar deals with verbs is one of the best I've read yet in a beginning Greek grammar. Another thing that students often struggle with is second aorist verb forms. And again here, rather than comparing second aorist verbs to first aorist verbs, he does do that, but he spends more time comparing second aorist verbs to imperfect form verbs, which is helpful given that the main difference between the imperfect and the second aorist is that tense formative and the different stem. whereas the difference between an aorist and a second aorist feels like it's a little bit more. So I think he does a great job of just explaining that and simplifying that down by bringing more discussion about the imperfect form into the second aorist. Participles are also another area people struggle with in beginning Greek, and so by the time you get to participles in this grammar, you've actually been through quite a lot, and I think this makes it a little bit easier for you to get to participles as well. And again, he breaks this into a number of chapters, which means that you're not going to be quite as rushed as you might be in some other grammars. So, main strengths of this, first of all, it's got a great stated goal, reading Koine Greek. Secondly, the way he handles verbs in this, I think, is outstanding. Thirdly, he's got these fantastic discussions of English in each chapter to show you what you already know in your own language and how that relates back to biblical Greek. These discussions are really helpful and well worth taking the time to peruse as a new learner. Now, there are a couple of things I would change in this if I had the opportunity to do so. One would be to drop the stative aspect and just talk about the perfective and imperfective aspect and spend more time talking about proximity and remoteness. I think that would make this just a little bit clearer when it comes to that. But it's much easier to manage that kind of teaching with this grammar than it would be with some of the other grammars that are out there today. One other tiny thing that just bothers me a little bit is when it comes to the present tense verb form, I really prefer to have my students at least just use a simple verb when they translate present tense forms. He says rather than he is saying. And this grammar uses the he is saying, that helper verb in English with a gerund to try and convey the present tense form. I think that it's better to just use a simple verb and learn how the word is being used. We do the same in English, and I think this makes the present tense form a little bit easier to understand, as well as the imperfect and some of these other ones as well. But this is a fantastic grammar. I really like the approach he takes, and I would say if you're considering teaching beginning Greek, or if you're considering learning beginning Greek, this should be very high on your list of books that you're considering because of the good explanations, the good discussion around English, the way he loops back over information, and the simplicity of the morphology and the way he teaches in this. I think you're going to benefit from this. But I'd love to hear from you. Is this the kind of grammar that is going to help you meet your needs? Are you somebody who's aiming to read Koine Greek, or are you somebody who's aiming to do exegesis or some other goal? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, if you like this grammar, hit the like button below. Thank you for watching, and thank you too to Logos Bible Software for sponsoring this video. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Until then, keep taking small, consistent steps toward mastery. We'll see you then.